Hello everyone, hello, and hello
Hello.
to another Design Cuts live session. And today we have with us the wonderful Roch from ROHH Foundry, who will be looking at typography considerations in logo and brand design. So hey Roch, how are you doing?
Yeah. Hi Matt, hi everybody. I'm really pleased to be here with you. I'm doing great, thank you. And how are you, Matt?
Yeah, no, I'm really good.
So today I will talk a little bit about fonts in branding in general, and how to approach a new branding project, how to plan your work with fonts, how to choose them, and finally what can help you in making these choices and in working with fonts in branding. So let me share my screen. So our topic today is type considerations in logo design and branding. So I'd like to start with the environment. So how shall we start our design process of branding system? Because branding is not only a logo, and when we consider, especially when we consider typefaces, we need to consider other things outside the logo type or logo from the beginning, really. But in short, I wanted to go through the whole process to be able to later choose our font wisely and make the design impactful and effective. So when we start start working on branding, we really need to make the research. And what I'm talking today, it is all in association with typography. Of course, the research has to be associated with every aspect of design, but I'm focusing today on typography. So we need to check our brand's industry standards. What kind of look, feel, and mood is the most common? What kind of look is associated with our type of the brand that we are working on? So it's very important to identify the cliches and design language that is commonly used in the industry that we are designing for. It's not in order to make the design that falls in these cliches all the time, but to have the knowledge what is our environment, what is our competition doing, and what environment our brand will be functioning in. So in terms of fonts, my suggestion is to go through the internet, through all the brands that you can think of, Google everything that is connected with your industry, directly and indirectly, everything similar, and just write down what kind of fonts do they use. What kind of fonts? I mean, not the names of the fonts. It's very often very difficult to recognize them, but do they use minimalistic fonts, or sans serif, or serif, or retro, or vintage, or friendly, or very cold and technical? This is important to note what is happening in our environment in terms of typography, because as I told you, I'm all the time I'm analyzing this in association with type. and do a simple statistic to analyze this environment. So just write how many of the brands use any kind of font, just for your knowledge. What is the standard in this industry?
Yeah.
Then we need to study our direct competition, because we have our view for the industry, but really our direct competition is the most important from the study. And it can differ. If you are e-commerce business or your client is e-commerce business, direct competition can be anywhere. So you have a lot of research to do, but you can be a local service provider, or your brand you are working on. It can be a restaurant, for example, or hairdresser. Then just go and study your direct competition in this area, and you really need to check what fonts exactly do they use. You don't want to use the same. I mean, it's not very common to just match the same font as your direct competitor, but it's good to be sure. And also it's good to be aware what kind of look do they present.
For sure.
After the research, it's time to draft some general direction. Draft like few words, not anything with design, unless you already have some great idea. Sometimes it happens, but we are talking about systemic approach today. Okay, this is our first step, to know what's around us. Later, we need to think what message is the brand we are working about. So what are the values, what is the offer of the brand, and what mood, what character will fit this offer and these values. Because always in branding, it's very important to make it possible for the customer or just a person that has some contact with your brand to make an association, make an emotional association with your brand, looking at your branding. If it's logo, or if it's menu in restaurant, or if it's the way the shop is looking, for example, yes, or the website is looking. So typeface is so important in conveying this message. So you have to be very specific what values, what offer, what message should be, or you want to be associated with the brand. And do remember, though, the association can be intellectual. So you can have some story behind, and you can explain very smart how does the font works together with your message. But do remember that emotional association is the most important thing, and this subconscious association will be the most important thing. So finally, I would say the mood, this last word, the mood of the branding. When somebody will see the logo, will see the typeface, will not think why, how, and so on, but will see and think, okay, this is IT business. Okay, I know what I'm watching it. So when you decide on the mood, or on the general personality of the brand, then we can go a step further and be a little bit more specific about the font. Here, I wanted to show you, these are choices of my different fonts, various fonts from different families. And I just wanted to show you how strongly the font itself, without any graphic mark, can influence the mood of the brand. And as you can see in the first example, you can make very modern and very contemporary look just choosing the fonts. The wording here is not really important, but as you can see, I chose here serif and sans serif font just to show you that modern is not necessarily sans serif only. Very often we have this association, okay, modern, it has to be geometric sans serif, or at least Helvetica or Futura, and so. But of course, there is the first association of serif font with something older. But there are a lot of modern serif fonts that have a very contemporary look. This one is Terano, and it's based on the old designs from 17th century, but the details make it very sharp, modern, and impactful as a modern typeface. Here we have our font Roth design cuts. This is the version of the family Roth, customized especially for design cuts to match needs of design cuts. And my friends from design cuts are, I'm happy to tell you.
Yeah. We're very lucky indeed to be able to reach out to someone such as yourself and say, this is a wonderful font. Would you be able to make a few small tweaks so it's more applicable for our brand? And you did, and yes. And yeah, and obviously we're using it on our rebrand, and we love it.
Yes, I'm very happy that the Design Cuts is doing a rebrand using this font. And as you can see, you can go with one font in two weights or even in one weight. And this is this very modern and minimalist look that it's very, very versatile, but also not very strong in personality. I mean, it's strong personality, but modern. What you see is modern. And you know, that's not something extremely playful, extremely friendly. It's just something slick and modern. And as I know, Matt already showed some first glimpse at the new branding. So.
Absolutely, and if anyone's interested in the story,
he pushed even made a little more customizations to the font in the very logotype to make it a little bit more friendly. But the font, this font as it is, will serve as a text font for the new projects, which I'm very happy about. So just to tell very shortly, here you have very strong, friendly personality. It's Kefir and Qualion rounded. And here you have very retro. These are two fonts, recreations of old Polish fonts that work great together. And at first glimpse, they create the mood of something vintage. And this is what I'm telling about, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about creating mood and emotional association. It's good when you have a story behind your project, and logical connections, but this first moment is the important moment, just to see and
I think it's really interesting, Roch, as well, because I'm thinking, you know, I look at the top one at the top left, and I'm thinking maybe fashion. I'm looking top right, and I'm thinking design. I'm looking bottom left, and maybe I'm thinking food or drinks, or, you know, and then that bottom right one is very much like vintage branding. It's interesting, as you say, how quickly you can make those associations based on what you've seen for, you know, your entire life.
Yes, and this is one more consideration. Like when designing a website, sometimes we love to be very creative, and very often we love to be creative and create something original, but it's not always the best working thing. So to somehow fit in some associations like this, like a bit cliche associations, can make the impact bigger, better, and more functional, really. But this is up to designer and to the client to choose how innovative they want to be with one project. But this is what I just suggest to consider. And the fonts. I mean, the
fonts look beautiful as well, Roch. They really do look beautiful.
Thank you. And it's you can also see how these are fonts that are very different from each other, but when you have some common values between the fonts, they can work great together. For example, here, both of these fonts are very sharp. This very big contrast here is complemented with very thin sans serif, and they feel like they were just from one family. Here we have two fonts from one family, so they always work great. And here we have just two very different fonts from with very different roots, but they have common values. They have high X height, big X height, and rounded corners. They both are in similar character, and that's why they work so good. And also these ones are just retro from and also a bit soft, so they work great together. But okay, let's go to the detail. And first thing, so we are not designing anything yet. We are just thinking, just to be conscious of what we are going to do. The detail of our logo. So what form of the logo we need to design? Will we have a logo mark, a brand mark, or a graphical symbol there, or not? So if the type is the only asset, or there will be something more. Also, do we have, because we can have also a tagline describing what our business is about, especially with new business. It can be a good idea to make some word or a couple of words to clarify what the brand is about. So we really need to be conscious from the beginning what elements the logo will contain. Here we have an example of logo with a logo mark, logo type, word mark, and a tagline. And then, why it's so important? Of course, if we have only word mark, then it's maybe, let's say, we have the widest possibilities in terms of typography, because only our typography and the word will work on imagination of the viewer. If we have a graphical symbol, we need to fit the font to match the graphical symbol in some way. So depending if the symbol is very modern, very sharp, or very soft, it influences our choice of font. Also, one good thing to have in mind, if you have a graphical symbol, maybe it's a good idea to consider a bit simpler font, more simple font, to complement the graphical symbol and not to compete with it. Just to not to have too much visual noise when watching at the logo. And if you have a tagline text, this is a whole new question. If you want to use the same font as in WordMark or different font as in WordMark. So important to remember is that the tagline is usually smaller and the logo is not is usually viewed in very small sizes or quite small sizes. So the tagline text should be set in font that is very, very legible. And it can be part of the same family, like here. Here we have Roch DC in capital letters, bold weight, and here normal weight of Roch DC. They complement, create each other, and will be very, very legible in small sizes. But this is not necessary to use the same family. You can use different family, but it has to match. So font pairing is not part of today's meeting, but then you need to really, really consider what way to pair the fonts. I'll just take a glimpse. Okay, so this is about the logo. Let's go further. Technical stuff.
I think that's really great advice as well, Roch. Just really fantastic advice, especially about the you know, your logo type not competing with your logo mark. You know, so if you've got a logo mark or you intend to make one to maybe push some more personality into the brand, then really, you know, selecting that type which will sit well with it is just really fantastic advice.
Yes, and the fonts themselves can have really a lot of personality. When I was preparing to today's meeting, I thought about a very common thought about geometric sans serifs, because very often we can hear a phrase that they are neutral and without character. And I thought, no, it's not true. It's just completely not true. They are maybe more versatile, but they have very strong character. They have very strong associations. It's not true that they don't have character. They have more technical character. They have more modern character, but it's not without character. And I thought that maybe we should reconsider thinking about this kind of fonts. Of course, there is a lot of sans serif fonts. They are very popular nowadays, and they are very versatile. But in my opinion, they have very strong associations with design, with modernity, with modernism, with computers, with technology. So. But that's like a digression. Okay. So from the technical stuff, I wanted to direct your focus to the applications of the logo. So the applications, I mean, what is the most common place that the people will see the logo on? Will it be a poster, or will it be a shop banner, or a logo on the website, or on the pencil? This is extremely important. Will you put the logo on the documents, a lot of documents? This is extremely important because this is connected with sizes of the logo. And the most common size of the logo is also one of the most important thing you need to consider before you choose the font for the logo. If the logo will be in small sizes, you need to put legibility of the font on the very top of the list. It needs really to be very legible first, and then the details of the design, which will not be very obvious when viewing in small sizes, so they are not so important. Then, if you have very small sizes applications as the first most common usage, then maybe sans serif, some simple fonts will be a better idea. So
yeah,
from technical stuff, I wanted to point to font pairing, as I told before, that we need to really consider, if you have tagline especially, what will fit. You wanted to say something, Marta?
Oh, right. Do you know what? I've already forgotten what I was going to say. That's not very good.
Okay.
I think what I was going to actually say was about the size of the logo being so true, because obviously when we chose it for design cuts, Rothorn, the main application for our logo is on the website and on websites,
Yes.
and it can actually be pretty small applications. So legibility is absolutely key for that. But it didn't stop me doing those really fiddly final finishing touches, like rounding off the corners, just to give it that little bit more sort of rounded personality, which was more representative of our warm nature of our community, for when, on occasion it's shown on the front of, I don't know, some marketing documentation or something like that.
Yes, of course. And these little details are sometimes not obvious for the viewer.
But they're nice, aren't they, as a designer?
They change the mood of the design, and this is the most important, because they influence your emotions and your subconscious associations. So here we have a example of some logo in big size and in a small size. It's not even the smallest size possible, yes, for the logo type, but you can see how different you perceive these two examples. And this is set with the new font I designed exclusively for design cuts, Montre Branding, which is a uppercase font with tons of ligatures and alternate symbols, alternate glyphs, just to make the designing the modern and this creative modern logo typography very easily. So this is an example how it can work. Before, I designed a similar font, Montre Branding, which is a wider version of this approach of designing uppercase logo types with use of a lot of ligatures and alternate symbols. And Montre Branding has not only this, but it has also 3 different width variants. So it's very versatile and a bit more condensed than Montre.
And I think
later I will.
Kat's kindly linked that up as well in the chat for ROHH Branding. And at the bottom, we've linked to Roch's store, where you'll be able to find all of his fonts that you see here today, all of his wonderful fonts, and both Rothorn, which obviously we're using for our rebranding, and ROHH Branding as well. They're both on there, so do go and check them out, because they're just stunning fonts.
And so we arrive to another important element, not only logo. The typography in branding is not only logo, and again, we need to really analyze and write down what kind of applications we will use. We will use text, really, because you can have logo set in one kind of font or in two fonts, and then set your other text in your branding with totally different font. But if you would like to have very consistent and very impactful look of your branding, why not use a common font in the logo and use the same font or a font from the same family for other applications like documents, like website, like posters, banners, and advertising. And then people that will have any contact with any of your materials will be exposed to a very consistent system, and their subconscious attachment will grow with your brand, and these associations will be made stronger all the time. So there are a lot of things to consider. It depends how you design your logo. If it has very original font as a main font, you probably will not be able to use it in your documents or other materials. Maybe for the titles, for some headlines in big sizes, but for text font you will have to choose different font. But if, like design cuts, you decide to use a sans serif font, you can always try to choose a font that will work great in other situations that you will need it to work. Also, you can, if you have tagline in your logo type, let's say this is logo type up here, and here we have our tagline, we can try to choose, for example, more playful font for the word mark and simple text font for the tagline, and then this text font can be used inside our advertising material in other places of our branding. And then you need to really have in mind the versatility and legibility of the typeface. So I think this is all about this aspect. Yeah, and yes, I just made this statement at the end, just to underline when you are taking all these considerations about technical aspects, about versatility, about legibility, all the time, at the end, the mood and values of the brand need to be in your head. How does it work with your brand, with your message? Here we have an example. This is the same logo I showed you before, so ROHH Branding, working together with ROHH, one of my previous design cuts exclusive fonts. And as you can see, on different materials we have different sizes of the logo, or different versions of the logo. Sometimes we can do this, and it's very consistent with ROHH as a text font. It has the same mood, and you can convey the message in very, very consistent and impactful way when you use fonts from one family or one type system. Okay, we are closing to the end. I will have some examples for the end. What's nice to consider? Font pairing rules, versatility and legibility. It's just summarizing the character and mood of the font. And one thing I didn't tell about, but of course, font quality. You choose a font for branding for years. It really needs to be a good font. So this is very important. And what helps in choosing the font? And this is the element I wanted to underline. In short, it helps when you have a font that are designed in the same mood and with the same roots or target as your complementary font. So in short, it's really, really good for working as designer to have a good type system, big type system that includes many font styles, maybe variable fonts, that includes a sibling fonts. So like, for example, Roch and Luchin and Montre and Conte, other of my fonts, are a part of one big type system that gives tons of different possibilities in terms of mood, but is consistent because of little design elements that are common throughout the whole system and the proportions of letters as well. Of course, open type features such as ligatures, as in Montre in Montre Branding, alternate symbols, they help very much in designing the fonts. So here I wanted to show you fonts from one type system and show you how different these fonts can be, but when they have a common nature, they can work really great together. So here we have first fonts that were in the system, Montre Grotesque, Montre Classic, because here on this page we have our workhorses, the fonts that are most versatile in the system and that can be used in text applications in big paragraphs of text, as well as for logotypes and titles. So you can see Montre Grotesque, more classic version of Montre, more similar in its design clues to Helvetica. Here we have a geometric font, very rounded and wide. And here is our condensed font, Luchin, that will work for more space-saving needs. And these are just the main fonts, the most, let's say, minimalistic and modern. Other fonts in the system are branding fonts with the great amount of ligatures and alternative symbols. So you have Montre Branding and the new font that is and that has its premiere now, Luchin Branding, that can be very, very narrow or a little wider, but also in more condensed proportions with flat sides of letters. These are great for modern branding needs. And here are also part of the same family, Montre Informal, soft versions of all Montre fonts, Conte, which is a unique case version of font similar to Luchin, but much more friendly and playful. And here we have Conte inline for posters, for any type of graphic design in big sizes, more playful, more retro. And all of these fonts can be very easily used together. You can mix them and have very, very, very interesting effects. And here I just wanted to show you some examples how you can use two of the fonts. That will be Luchin Branding and ROHH, the fonts that are new to the marketplace. So we have Luchin Branding. As you can see, these strange forms that you can achieve thanks to ligatures are very original and depends on your needs. You can do very crazy stuff, but also this is Luchin Branding. You can go without any of these strange and playful letter forms, just to have this very, very minimalistic look and very geometric look. Here is also Luchin Branding, and this is also Luchin Branding. And here we have ROHH. It's much more rounded, and as you can see, the mood is a bit different, but it fits very well to very IT or business focused environment, as well as design, more playful and more brave things to do. Okay, and here at the end, this is the end of my presentation, are a few examples of connecting very different fonts from the whole system. So here we have ROHH and Luchin Branding. Here as well, Luchin Branding, but in different setup. Luchin Branding and ROHH. Here, very minimalistic approach, only ROHH. And here only Luchin Branding. But if we go further, Montre Branding with ROHH. Here Luchin with Montre Grotesque. Here Conte with Luchin. And here Conte inline with Luchin. As you can see, the moods of the design can be really different, and really I can match almost all the fonts and cross them together, and the look will be consistent and will fit each other, because the type system is constructed in such a way that makes them work together very, very well. Yes. Yes, that will be it. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
That was awesome. Thanks so much. I'd say I haven't really had to say very much today. I feel a little bit like I'm just along for the ride, because there's so much fantastic advice there for anyone who wants to do brand design, or logo types, or get into logo marks and mix it up and look at brand focus, etc. That was all just absolutely amazing. Thanks ever so much, Roch. I hope to see you here again soon to share your knowledge with our community. Thanks so much, Roch.
Thank you. Always great to meet you.
Cheers.
Bye. Thank you for being with us.